All right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever it may be for you, and welcome to this session of the Education on Air Conference. My name is Matt Miller, and I'm going to be your moderator for this session. And today we happen to be talking about improving writing and research with G Suite for Education. This is going to be a good one. This is really going to be a treat, and I've been looking forward to it myself. And so wanted to introduce you real quick to our presenter so that she can get started. I know she's got a lot of stuff to cover and she's ready to get going. So let me tell you about my friend Casey Bell. She is a digital learning consultant with a passion for technology and learning. She offers engaging staff development for all levels of educators, specializing in digital learning presentations and keynote speaking engagements. She's a Google certified innovator, Google certified trainer, Amazon education thought leader, Samsung influencer. She's got all these impressive titles, and she's led presentations across the United States. Recognized as a top 10 in EdTech and e-learning influencer, in the Trust Ed top 20, and her blog, which is fantastic. I recommend it to people all the time. It's at shakeuplearning.com. It's won many blogging awards and recognitions and has become a go-to for EdTech and Google tips, and that is totally the truth. And so I'm going to kick it on over to Casey, and I'm going to be excited to be watching what she has to say. And if you have any questions at any point during the presentation, feel free to drop them into that question box that's down below the video, and we'll be checking those out at the end of the presentation. So Casey, over to you.
Thanks, Matt. And I'm now in presentation mode, so I can't see you anymore. Can you just verify that you see my About Me?
I see it. It works.
Okay, awesome. I am seeing a couple of people who don't have sound, but I think that was a couple minutes ago, so I'm hoping everybody can hear us now. So hey, y'all. I'm extra loud because I am from Texas, so hopefully the sound has improved. I am in North Texas, and it's cold and rainy here today, so we've had a bit of a shift in weather. I know a lot of other people have too, but I'm super excited to get started. And I have been just a bit under the weather, so if you hear me opening a cough drop or anything like that, please forgive me. Please pardon me today. But I do have a whole lot to cover. If you've ever attended any of my sessions before, you know that I always have lots of resources and that you will walk away with tons of resources as well. I was already getting requests to make a copy of this presentation. It has been opened up, so if you haven't, you can click on that and make a copy of it for yourself. So I am going to get started with improving writing and research with G Suite. So that is our topic. I am a former middle school language arts teacher. I say survivor of middle school, but we had a lot of different ways that we would teach writing in the classroom. And I want to talk more specifically about setting the stage on why writing with technology matters so much. I think it has changed the writing process. I think it has changed so many things in the way that we do writing in the classroom. I think that it's really important that we move beyond that substitution level and that we're not just using technology to type the paper, but that we're using all of the tools at our disposal to make it a better process. And so real quickly, I just want to go through some of these. And obviously, G Suite is going to offer us some great ways to collaborate in ways that we really couldn't before when it comes to writing. And now that we don't have to have just these individual essays and writing projects that we can actually collaboratively create and write together. And that's going to improve both the learner's engagement with that, but also going to improve our ability to give feedback, being able to collaborate within that document with those students, and the peer-to-peer feedback is also improved. One of my biggest the favorite probably of the tools there is the change in the digital workflow. I don't know about you, but when my students would turn in papers, and when I taught middle school, I had at one point 175 students. So if I took home 175 essays and tried to work through those, it would take me so long to get through those, give them meaningful feedback, and then actually get it back in their hands. So I was actually stifling their workflow, their creativity, and wherever they were going with their story just by asking them to turn it in. So now we don't have to physically turn in that paper anymore. And we can greatly improve that entire process. The revision process, I think, is greatly improved as well. You know, for me, it was always hard to tell if the students actually made the changes that I would recommend during writing conferences, or, you know, whenever we were having any kind of feedback process. You know, I would have to sit physically with draft 1 and draft 2 and try to determine what changes they made on a piece of paper. But we don't have to do that anymore. We have tools that will help us see that revision in action and easily incorporate that feedback into the writing process. And then, of course, the research doesn't just have to happen at the beginning of the paper. Research can happen throughout the writing process, and we have these tools at our disposal to now weave it in and out of the entire life of the writing and make it a much more dynamic process. So, and last, of course, we're going to give students more ownership of their learning, because they are not physically like giving up ownership of that paper. They have the tools that they can work with 24/7, and they can make a difference in their own writing. So moving through that, we hope we also are giving students that global audience when it comes to publishing their work, not just their writing, but all types of work. It's really important to give students a global audience. And I found that there was an immediate change in the quality of their work when they had an authentic audience. And then, of course, we want to increase student engagement and motivation, and we want to see more kids that look like this kid who's excited about his writing and the ability to share that with the world. So, you know, I just wanted to take a moment to dig into the foundation here of writing with technology, because I think it is something that really matters before we dig into the tools themselves. So I am going to kick things off with Google Drawings, and I'm sort of doing this one first on purpose. And I want to talk about using Google Drawings for brainstorming and pre-writing. So if you have never gone into Google Drawings, I really call it the unsung hero of the Google Drive suite of applications. There are so many things that you can do with it. There are tons of shapes and objects and things that you can manipulate. So you can create pre-writing like you see here. And so you can set this up to help students understand where the story is going and help them understand the entire process of making their writing more meaningful. So think about the brainstorming process, the pre-writing process, and how you might be able to use tools like Google Drawings to improve that. I also have a plug here for my moderator here. Matt has some great graphic organizers that he has created templates for in Google Drawings. So there are 15 free graphic organizer templates that you can get from Ditch That Textbook. And so I've linked there, but you know, think about any type of graphic organizer that you use in your writing process, whether that's pre-writing or feedback or anything that you're working on. You can create those inside Google Drawings if there's not already a fabulous template out there like Matt has for you. So take a look at some of those. I also want to talk about the fact that we can now make the writing not only more collaborative, but more interactive with tools like Google Drawings. So I created this a couple years ago, the collaborative magnetic poetry with Google Drawings. I did this for National Poetry Month. And I just had the idea, you know, like, why can't we create something that is physically manipulative, but in a digital format? And so there are tons of manipulatives that you can actually create inside Google Drawings, and that collaborative magnetic poetry is just one option there. So students can open this up, and I've even got a link here. So if you want to make a copy, if you've never seen how this works, so it's going to prompt you to make a copy. I'm going to open it up just so you can get an idea of what this looks like. And so I've already got some words on here to work with. And then just like you would do on the refrigerator, you just click and drag your words over to make the poetry. So I think it's also challenging to limit the words, which is what's so challenging about when we have the set of magnets as well. But a lot of teachers have created their own versions of these, or they add additional text boxes to give students more vocabulary to work with. But just one idea. And when you think about this, because we are in Google Drawings, this can both be collaborative and fully interactive. And these work awesome with whiteboards, by the way. I have seen tons of activities, and lots of teachers have taken pictures and sent to me of using things like the magnetic poetry with their interactive whiteboard. So I would encourage you to take a look at that if you have access to those. I also linked there, so this has evolved into a few other projects, but the Halloween version, the winter version, which was actually done with slides. I've also linked to my Google Drawings cheat sheet there for you, and you can go get a free copy of that. And then if you're curious about how I created those force a copy directions there, so where it prompts you to make a copy instead of having to request it or share it, take a look at that if you're interested in seeing how that was done. Okay, moving on. Google Docs for writing and research. So Google Docs, obviously being the word processor in the Google Drive suite, this is going to be the meat and potatoes typically of our writing process. So we now have speech to text built into Google Docs. If you didn't realize this, you can go to Tools and Voice Typing and be sure that you enable your microphone, and you can actually dictate into Google Docs. So most of us, including myself, even though I'm actually a pretty decent typist, I can talk faster than I can type. So this tool helps a lot of us, but especially the younger students who still don't really know how to spell or write sentences yet. They can speak into the microphone. This is also a great modification for students that need it. It's just really, really handy. And you know, speech to text and text to speech are becoming part of every type of device that we own. I think we're going to have to get used to hearing people talking to their devices. But I think this is a really cool feature to help improve that. So I hear from teachers all the time, you know, about typing and their kids type so slow. So consider this as another option to let them actually dictate their papers. And now we also have the new Explore tool in Google Docs. So if you haven't seen this, it is under Tools and Explore. There's also a little Explore button in the bottom right. And this will open up the Research tool, which is slightly different than what we had before. But you will find instant suggestions based on the content in your document. Okay, so you will see all kinds of information. This is actually more intuitive in terms of the information that you find in the tool. It's going to take the information that you have added and your history inside Google Docs and suggest certain things that you may want to include, including images, into your paper. So this was one of the updates we got not too long ago when we sort of made the switch from Google Apps for Education to G Suite for Education. And I've also linked to a blog post that I did about some of those updates. So if you're curious about that and how the Explore tool works in some of the other apps, take a look at that. Here is an animation of the Explore tool in action in Google Docs, just to give you an idea of how this might be used and how it is giving you related research based on the content that you actually add to the doc. Isn't that cool? I think that's just super awesome there. So I hope you are making use of the Explore tool. However, I know many of us are still missing that citation piece that we had in the original toolbar under research. So I have given you some options for adding citations. The EasyBib add-on, which will let you create citations in a sidebar there and create a works cited page. Scribble has a toolbar that's a Chrome extension, and Cite This for Me is another Chrome extension. So if you're looking for some way to help your students with citations, I just wanted to be sure and include those resources for you. So again, I know I'm talking really fast. I can't go too in depth on too many things, but I hope you are getting some new tips here to use with your students. So one of my favorite features of Google Docs and of lots of the other Google apps is the ability to see the revision history. And so here's just a quick little animation of, and you can see the revision history here. This is actually the older version, but it still works the same. So that pop out to the right will show you each and every edit that has been made, who made it, and it's time-stamped and color-coded. So if you actually select one of the revisions and you scroll through the document, you will see something in that color, and that means that revision was completed by that particular student. You can also go back and restore revisions, which I think is huge because it never failed whenever my students were typing their papers in Microsoft Word, I would have a student raise their hand and say, "Miss, it's gone. It's gone." And a lot of times it really was gone, and I was the teacher and I knew they had been working on it. It would just break my heart that they had been working the entire class period to type up their paper. And for whatever reason, whatever button may have been accidentally hit, it really was lost and they would have to retype their paper. No longer is that a problem when we use Google Docs, because Google Docs saves almost simultaneously. It saves every few seconds. And so we always have the ability to go back. And the only time that that wouldn't work is if you actually lost your connection for whatever reason, but you're no longer allowed to type when that happens. So I actually appreciate the fact that will keep us from adding information that could be lost. So that is just huge in terms of a teacher who teaches writing, the ability to see that revision history and restore those versions. We also have the ability to see new changes. And so this will give you a little walkthrough of what it will look like if you are in a collaborative document that has had changes since the last time you were there. So if you were in a document with one or more students and they have made some of those revisions that you suggested during your writing conference, you will see that pop up when you go into the document, see new changes, and it will actually walk you through every change that has been made and who made it in the document, which, the revision history is very powerful, but the ability to just see what was changed and who did it, I love this. So this is a really powerful tool in terms of making sure that students are actually making those changes and revising their writing. So the revision history is just so powerful. It allows us to see exactly what each student contributed, and this is accountability, especially when you have collaborative projects. I know that a lot of times when I had students working in groups, it never failed. There'd be one group who would come to me and say that there was one student who wasn't doing their work. They were riding the coattails of the rest of the students. And, it was really hard sometimes, even if you knew as a teacher, but to actually have the physical proof of what they were contributing. Well, if they are contributing inside Google Docs, you do have the proof. That is accountability. You can see if the student used their time wisely. So if they were given time in class to work on their papers, you're going to actually be able to see what progress was made during that time period, because all of that revision history is time-stamped. And to see if a student copied and pasted large portions of text. So if suddenly, within the last 30 seconds, they have a 5-paragraph essay, you're going to know that didn't come straight from their head. So that's going to help you watch out for some of those things as well. Now, the ability to restore earlier versions is also great. Or if, sometimes even in my own writing, I'm like, what did I write? I like that paragraph I wrote originally. I want to go back to that one. You can go back and copy and paste from some of those earlier versions as well. But the ability to see that entire writing process in action is just so powerful. So the revision history is just a tool I don't see how a 21st century teacher can live without. I think it's so powerful. Now let's talk about using comments. So you can now use comments in Google Docs. They've actually added a lot of features in there, but for teacher and peer feedback. So teachers can leave comments, students can leave comments. You can actually tag other people inside of your comments if you didn't know that, by typing the plus sign and then their email address so that they will know the comment is intended for them. But as you're working through these things and as we are digitally assessing student work, the ability to do that and the ability to let peers add comments there and be more meaningful with their writing and the writing process is very powerful as well. Here are some tips for using feedback, the comments for feedback. Of course, we want to be positive and constructive. I know with peer-to-peer feedback, my students would sort of struggle with this. That I would get a lot of, that's a good sentence, I like this word kind of feedback. So helping model more constructive feedback there, using it for discussion and collaboration. The comments are great because they're asynchronous. It doesn't matter if you're in the document at the same time, you can still see those comments. And there's a history of those that is kept. So you would be able to see if those suggestions were taken there, or the feedback that was given. And of course, it's great for collaborative writing. Here is also a great strategy to use with your students, the tag strategy. So this is a good way to help students leave more constructive feedback. Tell the writer something that you like, so starting off positive, ask a question about the writing, and then give the writer a positive suggestion. So helping them actually think of a way to suggest that their paper be improved. That's the tag strategy. Suggesting edits is another one of my favorite features. I know it sounds like everything's my favorite feature today, but I love Google Docs. And you can see that it green lines the changes that are made when it is turned on. So I'm changing the word apps to the word forms here. And whoever is in charge or the owner of the document can choose to accept or reject that suggested edit. So if you've never used suggesting edits, you're going to find the little pencil under the share button, and there are 3 modes there: editing, which is the one that you're probably the most familiar with and usually in, and then there is suggesting. And so that is going to turn that little feature on, and any change that you try to make in the document will then be a suggestion, and it will be green lined. I think this is a great way to make more intricate types of suggestions to writing. I do this a lot when I'm collaborating with my team, or even Matt and I collaborate a lot, and we will use this. But instead of having to type it all out in a comment, this is actually much more clear to the student in what types of edits need to be made. All right, real quick, I know I'm talking fast, and I know I have way too much planned for a 30-minute session, but I do want to give you some Chrome apps and extensions for writing as well. The Read and Write for Google extension, I could have done this entire session on this toolbar. There are so many great features in here that go beyond writing, but that are great to support reading and writing in every classroom. The speech input, which is again going to be that text-to-speech feature, is built into the toolbar. They have a word prediction feature that is great for young writers and struggling writers to help them think of the next word that should come in the sentence. They also have a dictionary tool and a picture dictionary tool to help them understand vocabulary. Here's a quick animation of what that toolbar looks like. And so they're just using the speech input there, but you can see there are tons of other tools that are built into that Read and Write for Google toolbar. So by the way, pay attention when you install this. This is free for teachers, and there are pieces of it that are free for the life of Read and Write for Google for students as well. But be sure that you read the details inside the Chrome Web Store when you're looking at that. Another quick idea here is to use the Screencastify extension. So screencasting is so easy these days, but I want you to think of how this can help with writing. And it may not naturally come to you, but I really like the idea of recording a screencast as a reflection tool over the writing. So a student could have their Google Doc on the screen, and they could record a screencast talking about what they did well, what they need to improve upon, and adding this to an online portfolio. So Screencastify just happens to be one extension that you could try to do that. It's a very easy to use extension. Voice comments with Kaizena. So this is another great Chrome extension. So taking the idea of comments within a Google Doc to another level and being able to leave your voice inside that comment. So think of how powerful that could be to actually leave your voice and explain it with your own voice instead of having to type it. And it does tons of other things. So if you've never seen Kaizena, be sure that you go check that out as well. So I also want to mention, I said this earlier on about giving your students that global audience. So the moment you give students a public audience, you have given new value to their work. And I didn't realize this until it actually happened in my classroom. But the moment my students started publishing online, they cared a lot more about the quality of their work, who was seeing it, who was going to read it, and who was going to leave a comment about their work. So I just want to give you some ideas and ways that you can publish to the world. If you're not familiar with this, this is I think a lesser used feature of Google Docs, but you can actually convert a doc into a very plain web page so that it doesn't look like a word processor anymore. And that is just under File, Publish to the Web. By the way, you can actually get embed code there as well once you publish to the web. If you click on the image there, that tips and tricks image, it will take you to a blog post with step-by-step instructions on how to do that. And then we have Google Sites as well. I think is another great alternative for publishing work online, not just writing, but all types of work. And of course, the new Google Sites has just launched and it's beautiful. So I also linked down there at the bottom a YouTube video that Google has created to help us learn how to use the new sites, and it is super easy to use. So I know I'm quickly running out of time, but I have tons of other resources for you. I've linked to my blog, to the Google resources, the tricks and tips. I also have a Google Chrome database for teachers and students that is searchable and filterable. So if you're looking for things that work on your Chromebooks or inside Chrome for your classroom, check that out. I've also linked to Matt's blog. He has tons of great resources there. So if you haven't visited or subscribed to Matt's blog, I definitely think you should. I keep an all things Google Pinterest board, and you should definitely follow the Google for Education blog, and they will be posting probably something today about the updates that we just heard during the opening keynote. And it's just a great way to stay up to date with all things Google for Education. So we are moving on to our closing and Q&A. So Matt, I'm going to open it up to you and see if we have any questions.
Oh my goodness, there's been so much chatter in this Q&A, and it's been great. People have been answering each other's questions and everything. And so so a couple of the questions that have come up, the big one, Casey, is this. They keep seeing all of these beautiful animations on your slides, and they want to know, how in the world do you do that?
Okay, so you just want to know the tip into the presentation there.
They want to peek behind the curtain. That's what they really want to do.
Well, you know, that's funny. A lot of these were created by other people. Some of these were created by Google. Read and Write shared one with me. I do make my own, and I used to make it with the Snagit extension that we are all now so sad has gone away. But there are lots of other tools. There is I'm trying to remember the name of the tool. Actually, I've got to look it up. Yeah,
and I know that
Gaiazo is one that I have used. I don't have one that I'm in love with like I was in love with Snagit. So a lot of these may have been made with Snagit before it went away as well. I will work on a blog post on that though, because that is something I get asked all the time. They want to know how to make the animated GIFs. So yeah, it definitely works well. And when you have a short presentation like this and not time to demo everything, that's a great way to show it. So
yes, I agree. And of course, you can always do the tried and true method of finding anything, which is to just Google it. You can always go do that, and that'll give you some good stuff too.
Right. Yeah, and everybody know that you can search Google Images for the GIFs.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I don't know if everybody knows that. So it's an advanced search. So you'll search for animated, and I think I have a blog post on that too somewhere. So
all right, we've got a couple of other quick questions. One, Edith wanted to know, can you use Google Scholar through the Explorer tool? Do you know?
I have not tried.
I haven't either.
I don't know for sure, but I will look that up and answer that inside the Q&A, because I believe that will be open for a while, and I can go back and see that. And if anybody else knows the answer, I just haven't tried it. I think there's some great new features in the Explorer tool, even though people are kind of upset we lost the ability to cite within it. So I just haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, so that's a clear and definite maybe, right?
Clear as mud, right?
Yes, exactly. Okay, two more questions, and there were lots of them. I tried to pull some of the ones that I thought we could handle here on air. One is, does voice typing work in other languages than English? Do you know that one?
I think so. I have, you can compose Google Docs. You can change the language inside Google Docs. So I would think that you would be able to do that. And I also believe that engine is the same engine we use with OK Google and all of the other voice search capabilities that we have on our phones and inside Chrome and everywhere else. So I think that is a possibility. I know the read and write toolbar also allows you to change the language and the other way to do text to speech and have it read in another language, not translated, but read. Well, maybe it is translated. I can't remember.
Okay. I'm doing a quick Google search on that too. So if I can get an answer, I will pop over and get that.
Okay.
So the last one that I've got that we'll do here is we had a comment that said, I love the attention you're giving to 21st century skills and student ownership of their learning. And then the question is, do you have any features for advanced readers? So that was, you know, I don't remember exactly what specific part of the presentation, but I thought I'd throw this to you and see if you had any answer for that one.
Well, and reading kind of goes a little bit beyond what was in the presentation today, because we're really focused more on the writing side of things. But
right, yeah.
With reading, I know that you can search by lexile level inside Google search as well, and that you can bring in different pieces like that. But I guess I'm not really sure how advanced they are talking about in terms of advanced readers, like a third grade advanced reader. Or are we talking about a senior who needs to be more challenged kind of thing? I think that kind of goes on what we had in store for today, but I'm happy to answer that. I may just need a little bit more detail from who is asking that question.
Yeah. I'm, you know, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I thought that I had read somewhere that Google has dropped the Lexile Reader feature in the search. I might be wrong about that, but
I think you're right. I think I just totally misspoke.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that.
But yeah, so see, we're getting a little bit of extra. We were talking about writing. Now we're going to get some bonus about reading. So that's awesome. So
I will, and whoever left that question, if you want to tweet me or email me, please let me know what kind of resources you're looking for, and I'm happy to help.
There you go. Okay. Well, there were lots of questions. I tried to answer some of them in the replies, but those are sort of the big ones. So I think that covers the Q&A part.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I know I'm actually a little over time, but I do have a few additional resources to share, and Matt and I have a special announcement. So I'm going to share my screen one more time and give you a few more. If you're following along in the presentation, you've already seen these, but so I have some free cheat sheets on my website. Actually hoping to get these updated very soon, but they're still completely free, and it's still very, very useful. I get comments on these all the time. So this includes Drive, Docs, Sheets, Slides, Forms, Drawings, Chrome, and Drive for iOS. I also have an online e-course if you're interested in becoming a Google certified trainer. So if that's something that interests you, check out becomeagoogletrainer.com. I am in the process of working on level 1 and level 2 educator. So hang in there if that's what you're waiting on. I'm working on it. I also have a Google Classroom ebook that includes a free student guide. So if you need some step-by-step getting started, this is going to help you get going with Google Classroom. It is an ebook. It's printable. It's 46 pages. The student guide is written for the student. It's 15 pages. So check that out if you are interested in getting started with Google Classroom. And then we have our announcement. So coming in 2017, my buddy Matt and I are going to start a podcast, and we are focusing on using Google in the classroom, whether that's G Suite or other Google initiatives that are coming along. But we are going to have a Google focus, and we will be starting that hopefully very early in 2017, so stay tuned. But I'm super excited about this. I love working with Matt, and I think it's just going to be a lot of fun. So if you're a podcast listener, stay tuned for more. Follow our blogs. We'll be sharing that there. And of course, a big thank you. So thank you for coming to my session. I hope everyone walks away with a little bit of something. And I'm sorry I couldn't answer all of those questions right there on the fly, but I will go back and answer those in the Q&A for you. There is my information. I am Shake Up Learning pretty much everywhere. You can reach me there, and I think I have contact information in the slides as well. So if you made a copy of those, please feel free to message me if you have any questions that I can help you with. So I also want to say a big thank you to my friend Matt for being my moderator today. And, you know, like I said, we are working on a few different projects together, and so love collaborating with you, Matt. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be my moderator.
Of course, it was my pleasure.
So anyway, thank you, everyone. I hope everybody has a great weekend.